my initial thought was people were going to be hesitant to go to this movie because they're thinking it's going to be some like nerdy or like you need to know more information about D&D in order to see the movie. And as someone who has literally never seen somebody play D&D, never played, never like interacted with anybody about it before, you obviously need no information. Like obviously it helps because you would notice said like lore and whatnot, but it's not going to affect your experience of the movie at all.
And as someone who did play bi-monthly D&D campaigns with her cousins growing up, the only thing I really noticed that was D&D was the character classes. If somebody'd show up, I'd be like, that's the bard right there.
Hey guys, welcome back to It Takes Two. I'm Quinlan.
And I'm Emily.
And today we are talking about a new movie. Woo!
We watched Dungeons and Dragons Honor Among Thieves.
Oh snap. Honestly, overall, like initial thing, thought it was gonna be kind of nerdy, but at the same time not nerdy because like it was a fantasy movie. And overall, loved it. It was good.
It was so good, and it's only nerdy if you know the deep lore. Like, I was talking to my dad, and he was like, I know, they went deep into, like, the D&D books for, like, all these things. And I was like, I didn't know that that's what that was.
Yeah, so when we're on our way there, I mean, I had done so like initially hearing about it, I was like Dungeons and Dragons. I don't play D&D. I don't know enough about this. Like, is this based on something or what is this like? Is it just in the realm of that? Um, then after doing more research and looking at trailers and stuff, realizing it's just like a fantasy movie and it uses the lore of Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
And so on our way there, I'm gonna embarrass Pacey a little bit. He was like, I've never seen the first one. What am I gonna do? And I was like, there is no first one. This is the first one. And so, yeah, he thought he was missing something before we got there. I was like, no, like, this is it.
It's not based, like, you don't need to have any background
Mm-hmm.
information about D&D. It's just a fantasy movie that happened to use, like, monsters from a specific property that very much makes you use. I forgot about that. That might be a
Okay.
problem for us. Well, this isn't monetized, so it doesn't matter. But like, if you put D&D in anything, you have to pay Hasbro.
Oh.
Yeah, that was a whole scandal because I don't know if you
Well,
know who Critical Role is.
no.
It's Charlie from Supernatural. She's like one of the people in it. They're big.
Okay.
It's basically this big D&D campaign, like people that play these big D&D campaigns that turn it into like a podcast or a web series kind of thing.
Okay, gotcha.
Um but they can no longer call it like a D&D thing because like Hasbro's coming after them for money and stuff. So
Oh,
probably won't
snap.
leave the scandals in there, but like
Ooh. But yeah, I had the same like similar experience with like my initial thought was people were going to be hesitant to go to this movie because they're thinking it's going to be some like nerdy or like you need to know more information about D&D in order to see the movie. And as someone who has literally never seen somebody play D&D, never played, never like interacted with anybody about it before, you obviously need no information. Like obviously it helps because you would notice said like lore and whatnot, but it's not going to affect your experience of the movie at all.
and as someone who did play bi-monthly D&D campaigns with her cousins growing up, the only thing I really noticed that was D&D was the character classes. If somebody'd show up, I'd be like, that's the bard right there. That was all I got. But to be fair, we
Yeah,
played a weird D&D hybrid, so
yeah, and that's what I was thinking. It's like a lot of people were going to be hesitant to see this movie, like, oh, it's not for me. But this movie just totally just is like an epic fantasy movie. It is just unreal. Like they don't make movies like this anymore. I feel like,
they
you
don't.
know.
It's a real like throwback almost.
Uh-huh.
It's
When
giving like Lord of the Rings Hobbit kinda.
yeah, just the medieval feel for sure, but Pacey even compared it to like when we got out like Pirates of the Caribbean, just all of that
Mm,
special effects. They
yeah.
just don't like you think of Marvel, like obviously they use a lot of like special effect type of things, but it's more technology based. But since this is like medieval, it I don't know, it just they the characters and like the weird bird people and the weird animal people and like you just don't get to see that type of stuff as much in like movies anymore. They just don't make the special effects CGI type of effects ever. You know what I'm saying? Like
Because they weren't going for realism, they were going for
no,
magic.
magic and it 100% gives. Like it is yeah. I think Pirates of the Caribbean when you think of like the Davy Jones lockers, but like where all those people are like people, but they're not people, and like
Yeah.
so you see all of that, and so that kind of I totally loved the comparison that he's when we came out of the movie and he said that because it's like that makes perfect sense. Like they just don't do movies like that anymore.
No, and like also with the cast, but I was gonna say the cast made me nervous at first. I was like, how
Mhm.
are all of these people gonna work together? I was like, how is Michelle Rodriguez gonna fit into this movie? Like, what on earth could she
Yeah,
like play? But I knew she loved
exactly.
D&D because Vin Diesel, obviously.
Hmm.
But it was perfect. She literally was the perfect
Oh,
character in
nobody
there.
else could have done that.
No.
Like, and I think it's so crazy because you don't see her in anything other than like Fast and the Furious. You know, like there's got to be something with her contract and her not being in other movies because she's in that, and there's no taking. You know, like that. Fast and the Furious is an insane franchise, like, and she's a part of that. But you just don't get to see her in things, and she did so freaking awesome in this movie. Like, I wish she was in more because
It
she
was
was
so good.
fantastic. Ugh.
She was so funny. And when I was watching it, because I decided I was going to take myself on a little date. And so I went and saw this movie by myself. I got a coffee
Yeah.
and donut, snuck those into a movie theater. It was a great time.
Ah, I love that.
But it was so funny because I was just making all of these comparisons to like when we'd play D&D of like who was who and like oh that one was Tyler, that's totally Hunter right there.
Yeah.
It was amazing. And I couldn't believe even like the daughter in the cast.
Hmm.
She's been in a lot like I was like I immediately recognized her. I was like you've been in so many movies I've seen recently. And then I like
Yeah.
checked her credits afterwards and I was like you go. You're like killing this
Yeah.
right now.
And that's how I feel like with a lot of these people, right? They're in a lot. You
Yeah.
know?
Um
Like it was kind of
the
crazy to
the
see.
wizard kid, the guy who's a bad
Yeah.
wizard, he
Yeah.
was in Pokemon, Detective
Okay.
Pikachu.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. And just like Chris Pine of all people, like I just thought that was kind of absolutely hilarious. But he was perfect for the role. Like
Yeah.
I couldn't see anybody else playing the characters.
No, I
Like,
thought that was so off the cuff casting him, but I was like,
yeah,
wow, okay, I stand corrected.
it's the other Chris, you know? Like we don't get to see enough of Chris Pine. You see Chris Hemsworth, Chris Evans, Chris Pratt, but where's Chris Pine? Okay? And he got his moment in this movie and
He
he
really
deserved
did.
it. It
He
was
really did.
fantastic.
But also the guy from Bridgerton was really excited for him to be in there.
See, I knew he was in Bridgerton. I've never seen Bridgerton. Sorry, everybody. Never seen it, but I knew that he was from that, and so I was like, yeah, that was another just like big person that's like doing all of these other things, but also had time for this crazy, crazy movie.
Yeah, as someone who's obsessed with Bridgerton, I was a little sad he was only there for like 20 minutes, but it's okay.
Yeah, especially because like he was like when they showed the movie, like the poster, like the before credits of the movie when they're like all there, he was there. So he just wasn't quite as big as like I thought he was gonna be because he sat with everybody else at the beginning, you know, like
He's in every single promo piece in this, like, entire thing, and he's in, like, 20 minutes of the movie.
Oh, but his humor was my absolute favorite thing in this entire movie. Like the dry, just stupid humor that happened in this movie. Like that is like my absolute. When I watch a comedy movie, that is what I am drawn to.
It was giving
And
Castiel.
yeah, it really was. It totally was. I the part where he was like, "If it becomes too dim, you shall hold my hand," or "You can hold my hand."
I am not holding his hand.
It's like I am not holding his hand, and it was just so funny. And then I every bit of humor in this movie was absolutely hilarious, and I 10 out of 10 would watch it again because I was crying laughing while watching this movie, which doesn't happen often, but it happened.
It was so funny, and I I was excited to see it, but I didn't have, like, extremely high hopes for it,
Yeah.
but it was so good.
No, exactly. Because me and Emily, like, we plan out, like, obviously our episodes based on new movies coming out. And we're like, we'll see Shazam or Dungeons and Dragons, like, whatever we can do. And then we were like, ultimately, we're like, yeah, let's do Dungeons and Dragons. Like, we couldn't really, we weren't like, we have to do it, like next week, we got Mario, which we were like, we have to see Mario. So like this one was kind of just a one off, like, let's do this one instead. And I'm so glad we did because it was so funny.
Speaking of planning our episodes in advance, though, I saw a trailer while I was
Okay.
there for a movie that I think we really need to see, and it wasn't till that night I came home and saw on social media that
Okay.
night that I saw the movie was the premiere in Los Angeles of the English version of this movie.
Oh, okay.
So it's an anime film, but it looks really good.
Okay.
I literally was like on Twitter like looking it up while the trailers were playing, and then I was like, gotta go add this to the list.
Gotta add it to the list. No, literally, I forget how big movie releases until we started going to the movies regularly. Like seeing all of the trailers before the movie is like my favorite part. Pacey's like, oh, if we're late, we'll just miss a few trailers. I'm like, no, I love to see the trailers. I want to know what's coming out. Like, if we see the cutest, like, animated films that you never get to see, like, promoted anywhere else. Like,
Well, especially because a lot of them only have limited theater runs because they're only
mhm.
doing it for festival qualification. Because you have to have a limited theater run to qualify for certain festivals and stuff
Oh,
and
okay. Okay,
awards.
gotcha.
Like to be the Oscars or anything like that, you have to be in theaters for like a certain time period, and it has to be a certain number of theaters.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I just feel like I don't ever get to see before we started going regularly, I didn't get to see the trailers for movies. I didn't was never really super excited about new releases.
Yeah.
But now that we're going regularly, I love watching all of the trailers and it makes me super excited for the new movies.
I like to go like once a month because like to watch the trailers before the movie. Otherwise, I always
Mhm.
show up late because they're always the same at that point. Unless you're going to
Yeah.
an R-rated movie and then you'll get different trailers than if you're going to a like general audiences. If they're red card or green card.
Yeah, okay, perfect. Yeah, cuz I think this movie was like Dungeons and Dragons is probably one of the first not R-rated movies that I've seen in a while. So I got to see different stuff for sure. Yeah. Cuz like there's like animated movies that are coming and I've never seen trailers for animated movies until recently because okay, back to Dungeons and Dragons. uh so there's a few, but let's see. This one. So, a charming thief and a band of unlikely adventurers embark on an epic quest to retrieve a lost relic, but things go dangerously awry when they run afoul of the wrong people.
They're always so vague.
Like, it's just so random. Like, yes, that is correct. But also so much more, you know?
I will say, as like having my job being writing log lines for a while, it's really hard to encapsulate a movie in like a
Oh,
sentence
for
and a
sure.
half.
No, I totally.
It's just funny to hear them every single time. You're like, this is what like all of the
It
people
does
agreed.
happen.
Yeah.
But really, like, that's what we got. Like, so yeah, that's, I mean, that is the gist of the movie. Like, that does happen. But I just feel like it's so much more. I mean, the whole medieval aspect, I'm a huge fantasy, like, when I read books, I read a lot of books. But
She reads a lot of
sometimes
books.
you want to hear, I've read 23 already this year.
I'm not surprised at all. I've seen you read books. It's just like flip, 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 flip. I've never seen
Okay.
someone read as fast as Quinlan ever in my entire life. It's absurd.
And that's on top of, like, my full-time job, this podcast, everything else. I've read 23 books. So hopefully we stay strong, because last year I kind of just, I was like, yeah, 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 boom.
Kind of glad our New
um,
Year's resolutions never came out because I don't think I followed one of them.
okay, but anyway, back to my point to begin with before we got on my reading tangent. Fantasy books are, like, one of my favorite genres of books. I honestly only read a couple types of books, but fantasy is, like, my top genre, and they always are medieval books.
Mm-hmm.
Like, almost always fantasy is a very medieval topic. I feel like it takes place in that same realm of time. And so it felt like books that I've been reading recently just put on TV, which I never get remakes of the books, are like adaptations, you know? So this was just really fun in general, like, to actually see some more medieval, because we just don't get enough of it.
We really don't. I'm still waiting for Elizabeth Banks to actually produce one of my favorite book series into a film that she apparently bought years ago. Hey, it's there.
Hey.
It's so good. Please do it. But it's so fun because it takes that fantasy element, but then it brings in, like, if you do know D&D, the whole absurdity element of like the dungeon master doing literally whatever they want to just like throw you off track. And then it's so absurd when you're in there because we had to escape a prison once in one of our campaigns, and then
Okay.
there was this little girl involved and we don't know, and then it just became his like my cousin's shoulder little girl. So she was like she was she traveled with us the whole time, just like on his shoulder, and like had all the wisdom of these like weird things, and like that's how we
She was
made it
all
through the
knowing.
journey. Yeah, and
She was
like
an all knowing child.
she wasn't a part of what his brother had planned for us to do, but
But
she sure came along for the rest of it.
it's, I just, the randomest things would happen. Like, obviously the name is Dungeons and Dragons, and then they go underground and there's a dragon. But, like, it was still so cool. Like, I don't know. The dragon was my favorite part, or one
Because
of
he
my
was so
favorite parts.
chubby.
He could barely fly. His wings were so small. It reminded me of A Bug's Life when the caterpillar turns into a butterfly. That's, like, what this dragon looked like. Um, it was fantastic. It really. He's like, look at me, I'm a beautiful butterfly. You know, like, and he's just like
It's like
trying to
if
fly.
he and the dragon babies from Shrek had a baby.
Oh, for sure. That's the perfect comparison.
Oh my gosh.
The hybrid donkey dragons, and then the Bug's Life caterpillar. Boom. That was this dragon.
Yeah.
I mean, it was so cute. I mean, he was so cute. I mean, obviously he was, like, trying to eat everybody because he's a dragon, but I was like, oh, I kind of want a dragon, you know? Uh,
Well, it's also kind of funny, like playing off the absurdity element, like like, yes, there's an ending to the movie, but they don't solve the, like, overarching problem. They just solve their situation.
Yeah.
They didn't try too hard to be like, let's save the world. They were like, ooh, I guess we should help.
They're like, might as well. Cause like it just there was so many random things, and I mean I just yeah, it was absurd. It was funny. It was magical. I mean, what more could you want from a movie, you know?
It was so well written. Like, the dialogue
Oh,
was not forced at all.
I don't even know if I could like I'm trying to think of like plot holes, but we're really good at picking out plot holes, but as of right now I can't remember one.
No, because any plot hole there was, I feel like they acknowledged it.
Yeah.
So, like, they were like, yeah, we know. It's fine.
It's okay,
But that's also, like, the most D&D thing they could have done, because you just go
Yeah.
with it. Like, one time, I'm always, like, a thief or a rogue or whatever in these games. I, like, stole some stuff, hop out a window, like, helping everybody out, obviously. My uncle's just like, nah, I want that. Knocks me out. And you just go with it. And you're like, really? Okay, we're on the
That's
same
what
team
happened?
here.
Okay.
And you just keep going. Oh, we didn't acknowledge uh Olga's taste in men.
Oh, I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, she just played the best part ever. She literally was perfect for this part. And it couldn't have made me happier, Like, it was perfect.
It really was.
Like, do we spoil that? Do we not spoil that? Because I feel like
Oh, I guess that is a
that was
plot point.
just like the cutest part, or not the cute,
It
like
was funny when
it
you just
was
showed up.
it just showed up. Um,
I can adjust that slightly and say I really appreciated the fact that they never made her character and Chris Pine's character be a thing.
yeah,
Even though she
yeah,
was the mother figure, like, to the daughter,
the entire time.
and he saw her as that mother figure, there was
Mm-hmm.
never an ounce of romance there, even though they, like, teased in a way that, like, maybe there could be in the future,
Yeah,
of, like, they hate each other, they dislike each other so much that there could be that
but
that they
but
were
at
like,
the whole like sister brother relationship that they were able to like manifest at the same time
yeah,
really was very important, and I think it was very like fun that they didn't force that on them.
it was so nice. And then I like that they even clarify it in the very, like,
Uh-huh.
ending scene of, like, even though they saved everything together and all this, she's
Yeah.
still not into it. I was like,
Because
yeah.
yeah, because at like the very beginning she was like, there's something wrong with your lips, and he's like, what's wrong with my lips,
Yeah.
and like
I was
she's
like,
like,
are they
me with
really?
that, like and so I thought that's where it was gonna go at the end of the movie, because like the whole like, ew, like me with that, and then like
Yeah.
5 minutes
The
later they were
trope.
gonna be into each other. Yeah.
Yeah.
But they never did that. It was fantastic. Instead, we got like a little bit of a awkward, weird romance between these like young adults that were,
That was so funny. And I'm like, why am I him though?
he was like, I did try to court this one girl one time.
And then she was
And
just
then
like,
she,
yeah, you were just too, like, unsure of yourself. And I was like,
she's like, it was perfect. I mean, I loved that romance aspect rather than like trying to force these other main characters together. I think it was great.
and the costumes were amazing. Everything was
Mm-hmm.
amazing.
The the freaking, what did he play?
The
The
loot.
the loot. That was just a great element for no reason. Like, it advanced so many plot points. but it was literally a loot. Like, he just like, oh, okay.
It's the most Bard thing that ever could happen. It's like, he's like, I don't have any, like, real fighting skills or anything, but,
Yeah.
like, I make plans and I make
Olga
things
was like,
happen.
oh, he plays the lute. And then from then on out, like, they would get out of the randomest things by the fact that he played the lute. Like, it was just
It was
Oh,
so funny. So go watch Dungeons and Dragons.
yeah, for sure. Like, I don't want this movie to flop because, honestly, have you looked at the numbers? Last time I looked,
No.
not good. The movie cost like $135 million,
It looks
and
like
they
it
made
did.
like, yeah, they made like 75 million at the box office.
Ouchie.
Yeah. And the reviews are like phenomenal. Like everyone's rating it fantastic. So like it's a great movie. And so more people need to go see it because more people need to make movies like this. So
It's
the audience needs
honestly
to
it's just
go.
it's just because people haven't gotten past the stigma of D&D, which I'm like,
I think so, yeah.
what is this? 1970, 1980? Like, we're not still in
Uh,
Stranger Things times. Like, you can
no,
be
literally.
nerdy and it's fine.
I really thought with the whole like Stranger Things getting its moment and them doing D&D and all of that, like it was going to help push this a little bit more, but I feel like it didn't. It did.
But like, there's zero barrier to entry just because it's called D&D. There's no. It's like the specific monsters are literally the only thing.
I think they should have called it like Honor Among Thieves D&D or something, so people remembered the Honor Among Thieves part and less on the D&D part, so that it could kind of drag the audience a little bit more. But
They probably only even called it D&D because of Hasbro.
yeah, that's what I'm assuming. So that's what I'm saying, like maybe they should have flopped the title a little bit, tried to minimize the D&D. But
Who knows? That's
because
a whole
I think
weird thing going on.
I think so. I think that's probably just like people's hesitation to seeing this because it was fantastic. You don't need to know anything about D&D in order to see this movie. Like,
Well, because see, yeah, I was talking to people. I was like, "Oh, you want to go see it?" And they're like, "I don't really. It's D&D." And I was like, "It's not D&D.
so
I'm telling you, it's just a fantasy movie that involves the
it's got like
elements."
shapeshifters and sorcerers and like it's just a medieval fantasy with all these crazy characters. Like,
Yep.
don't hold your own prejudice against the D&D.
I
Okay.
want to know where this stigma came across. I'm like, why is D&D so stigmatized?
It really is. I don't get it either. Because fantastic movie, 10 out of 10. Would probably watch it again. Like, even like this week again, if I could.
Yes.
I
Hey,
loved it.
now I'm gonna go try to set up a D&D game with my cousins
Ooh.
next time I'm home. So,
Ooh. Okay, well, let me know how that goes. I don't ever want to play D&D. I'm sorry, everybody. It just doesn't sound that crazy to me, but
hey, we've tried playing The Haunting of Hill House, and that was more than you were down for, so I'm not surprised you don't want to play D&D.
yeah, I'm more of a cozy gamer like my Animal Crossing, okay? Like, that's my type of game.
Yeah, Quinlan doesn't really like our improv world building games.
I do not like any sort of improv game. People are like, say blah blah blah, and I'm like, what? Tell like truth or dare when people ask you a question, or like when you're supposed to like tell your secret, blah blah blah. And I'm like, I don't know any secrets about anything. And like that's just about me. That's not even like world building at all. But if I put on the spot, no thoughts. Literally none.
See, I'm the queen of making stuff up.
No, literally.
I've never prepared a presentation in my life. I just start talking and hoping something happens.
Something will stick with Emily for sure.
It
Okay,
does. I
it'll
just keep
stick.
talking until something makes sense.
And everyone's like, yeah, and you're like, oh, I don't even know what I said, but I said it. It was right.
I was like, I blacked out for that. What happened?
Like I said something cool, and like I know I did, but like what was it? Remind me.
Like me hosting the film festival. I honestly
Yeah.
don't really remember that. Like I do, but like I don't.
So, yeah, that's that. I mean, improv not my strong suit. So,
It's fine. This is why you come to the episodes with notes, and I sit here and talk.
see, yep, I am not one to be put on the spot. That's why my face flashes bright white every 5 minutes because I gotta look at my notes.
That's us. That's our rant for the day.
Yeah.
So go see this movie, and we'll see you guys in
Mhm.
the next one.
Peace out, Cub Scout.